A guy had called from a Craigslist ad. I'll buy houses cash on Craigslist, right? He had called and
You're listening to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show.
Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of the We Love Equity Real Estate Show. On today's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Lee Waldrop out of Mobile, Alabama. Lee is doing some things there in the state of Alabama that's transcending the market somewhat. Lee has been investing in residential real estate since 2011. He owns several real estate companies that focus on flipping houses, turnkey property management, buy and holds, and wholesaling in Lower Alabama. Lee is a licensed agent in the state of Alabama. He graduated from the University of Alabama with a business degree in investment management, and he received his MBA a few years later. Lee has been a part of the corporate world. Lee left his job to pursue his real estate career full time. Lee has used a number of creative financing strategies, which we'll tap into. He did that to invest in real estate and is extremely passionate about flipping houses for several active income and building and rental portfolio and long-term wealth. Lee has completed hundreds of real estate transactions covering most areas of residential real estate. Lee enjoys spending time with his wife, Olivia, and his daughter, Catherine. Olivia does the majority of the design work on the flips. When Lee is not working, he loves to travel, scuba dive, and work out. So, man, Lee, welcome to the show. I should have had your wife, Olivia, on here as well, because I'm pretty sure she's the boss.
yeah.
But, man, welcome to the show, Lee. So give me a little bit of background that I didn't touch on. I know you're in Mobile, Alabama. You're doing some things there. You're doing some fix and flips, property management. What else is going on with you there in Mobile?
Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. So since 2011, I've been investing in real estate. It was great to be able to bring my wife in about 5 years ago when we started flipping houses. So we run several operations here in Mobile, Lower Alabama in general, but our office is here in Mobile, Alabama. We wholesale houses, which generates leads and properties for us to purchase, to flip, or to hold. Then we have a property management company which focuses on turnkey properties. So we will hold those for our in-house portfolio, or we will sell those to other investors who want to generate wealth as well in passive income. So we will wholesale houses, we'll flip houses, and we'll also buy and hold and flip rentals. And that is our operation here. And we run a property management company to service not only the houses that me and my wife own, but also houses that other clients own as well.
Okay. So what was your inspiration to get into real estate investing?
Well, I was always passionate about real estate. I thought I was going to work in the corporate world and just buy maybe one or two houses. You climb the corporate ladder and buy one or two houses a year. And then by the time I wake up and I'm 55 or 60, maybe I've got 20, 25 houses, and it'd be a good, supplement to my 401k. But when I met my wife, we just decided to jump in on it. I was very passionate about real estate, and my dad he owned a mobile home park, had a duplex. And so when I was a young kid, I was used to he was a mom and pop landlord. I would go on Saturdays and fill potholes on the, the mobile home park and do all that. But that really didn't, completely inspire me. I think when I just I like to read, and Robert Kiyosaki, of course, that's everybody's, number one. Hey, how did your eyes, open? That was the biggest kind of eye opener that, hey, I'm grinding along for somebody else. Why don't I just jump in? And I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit to do it. So there wasn't, I don't think, one sole mentor or anything that gave me the inspiration. I think it was just kind of came from inside.
So Lee, tell me about your first business transaction, first real estate transaction. I know as a kid when I started, my first transaction was done on a farm with pigs. So tell me about your first, if you don't have one as a child, you can tell me about your first real estate transaction.
Well, my first business transaction really was doing landscaping. It was going and getting my mom and her minivan to go pass out these little flyers that I printed off on our old school computer back in the 90s and early 90s, and dropped them off in mailboxes, and ended up getting 5 or 6 phone calls, and going and raking leaves and pushing my dad's lawnmower down the street, and coming back and getting the weed eater and the blower after I was done. So that was really when I was about 12, 13 years old is my first taste into kind of a business transaction and learning the whole ropes. Some people, have you rake the yard, and I would quote them, a price, and I would work for 3 days straight because I underestimated that they had 5 years of leaves growing. So
Right.
You kind of like going to school as it's your first transaction, learning, okay, well, I think I'll bid that differently next time.
Yeah.
So that was the first, when I was about 12 years old or something, to save up for my first car.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Wow. You started saving up for your first car at 12, man. You was a lot more ambitious than I was. So tell me about, because I know most entrepreneurs and real estate investors, they have that itch at an early age, man. So your itch started at 12 years old. So tell me about that first real estate deal, that really made you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
The first real estate deal, it was probably one that was my personal house. And it was actually the way that you invest in real estate through leverage. It also, I was a big proponent of, be real conservative, put a large down payment, 15-year mortgage, pay extra principal payments. And then guess what? The market crashed. And I was fortunate enough that I had bought in a good location. I was able to break even on the property, but then it really showed me, the smart way to invest. And it really opened my eyes, to a lot of people, that were buying in the downturn. And I think the first time I really, thought that it was something I could do was when I owner financed the house, and I put a renter in there, and I painted the walls myself, and I was out, maybe $1,000 total, $500 down payment plus closing costs, and it was cash flowing. I'm like, well, I don't have any money, but I'm cash flowing on this rental house. And that was probably the first time where I really thought that, hey, I can do this with no or low money down, as I say.
Okay. So let's talk about that seller finance deal. Now, that was like one of your first deals. What made you think about going seller financing? Kind of walk me through that deal so we can kind of get an understanding. And guys, if you don't know, seller financing is basically where the seller is the bank on the transaction. So Lee didn't have to go to a traditional bank or anything like that. He kind of used the money from the seller in order to pull the deal off. So Lee, walk us through that.
Well, when I left the corporate world, I was married, and my wife had a full-time job. And so I was fortunate enough to kind of be able to do this while just your regular bills at home were paid. Did not have anything really in the bank account, but I'd read a whole lot of books. And so I negotiated with the seller because I really did not have the wherewithal to get traditional financing. Maybe we could have gotten one home, but we surely didn't have the 25% down on a non-occupied house to purchase it as a rental property. So through advertising, Craigslist, the whole 9 yards, just driving for dollars, found a seller that was interested. They were moving and upgrading their house, and it was a good rental area with, I don't base my decisions off appreciation, but I thought that, it had the possibility to go up in the future, and worked out an owner finance deal, $500 down. Actually, I think we shared the closing costs, so it ended up being right around $1,000, and gave me a 10-year balloon payment, which means I have to pay the loan off within 10 years. So I figured I thought that I would figure it out by then, right?
Yeah.
Either to refinance or do something by the time that 10-year balloon came up. So ended up negotiating terms with them. The seller was mainly concerned about, hey, I want my mortgage paid for while I go and I got to pay for this new house. So we worked out, I think his mortgage was like $862, something like that. And so we basically structured the rate, the interest rate based around him exactly covering his mortgage.
Covering the mortgage.
On the 10-year note. And we actually amortized it over 30 years, but it was a 10-year balloon payment. So anyway, took it over, and I had to do all the sweat equity myself, basic stuff such as changing lights, plumbing fixtures, painting, just the yard care, and then put a renter in there. And I think they started out paying $1,100 and then went to $1,200 year two. And so it wasn't, a home run deal, but it allowed me to get into something to where, after 6 or 7 months, I've gotten my principal investment back and allowed me to enter the game with hardly any money.
So let me ask you this: you found that deal by, was it Craigslist or driving for dollars? Kind of. Where did you find that deal at?
That particular deal was word of mouth. Before I ever bought a deal, I joined the local real estate meetup. And I think this was before the meetup.com days, but your local RIA group, and joined it and just told everybody, all of my friends, family, everybody I knew, that I was investing in real estate. And I forgot that exact deal, how that one came to me, but it's sort of a friend of a friend type of situation, to where there was already a little bit of, I wasn't a complete stranger.
Complete stranger, right?
Exactly, and so it worked out to where I was able to just build that rapport with the seller, and put their mind at ease that I was going to do the right thing and continue to pay for their house, because he had a growing family and he moved on to a bigger house, but he wasn't financially stable enough to where he could pay for two houses.
Pay for both.
So I had to make sure that he had his mind at ease that although I didn't do a large payment, I would take care of his house, until I refinanced or sold it or whatever. So he was, we worked that out.
And the reason why I ask that is because I always tell people, you have to, one, let everyone know what you're doing. You have to let people know what you're doing. That way deals will attract and come to you. So that's exactly what you did. You let all your friends, family, everyone know that you were getting into real estate, and that deal kind of came to you, even though you didn't let the barrier of not having any money slow you down or stop you or anything like that. So that's two good things right there. You continue to persevere and go through even though you didn't have the money, and you built rapport and you found that deal. So kind of, if you can remember, I know you've done hundreds of deals, man. What was the numbers, roundabout numbers on the deal? So I know you said you had to end up putting like $1,000 down. How much did you buy it for? I know the note was like 800 and some bucks a month.
Well, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done the deal today because it wasn't a good enough deal. But the deal, it was $162,000 purchase price. And the rent was $1,100 first year, $1,200 from there on out. I held the house for about 5 years. Just so happened to where it was just sort of in the background, right? That house was sort of in the background. It wasn't really cash flowing terribly good to really even pique my interest each month, but it was just there. And once I really started getting involved more in real estate, but the good thing is that that whole area, once the market rebounded, just really it became one of the little hot spots for downtown Birmingham, Alabama, to where a lot of young people were moving there and ended up selling it. I never thought I'd sell to somebody like myself that says we buy houses cash, but I did. I listed it with a realtor, and a cash buyer came up and said, I'll give you 200 grand, cash, 2-week close, no inspections. So I was like, you know what? I bought this thing for 162. I've owned it for 5 years, made a little bit of money off of it. I was like, I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to mess with it. I've got bigger stuff to do. I'm just going to let it go. So, it ended up, my first deal ended up being, one of my more profitable deals, for a single family house.
Absolutely.
Really through no expertise of my own. It was just, it was something that I do not try to get involved with appreciation or speculation, but it just ended up working out for me.
Well, the good thing is it was your first deal. So you didn't lose money on your first deal. You ended up making money on the first deal. You learned a valuable education. You learned that, you learn how to do a seller finance deal, how to let the seller carry it. You then turned around, put a renter in there for $1,100 to $1,200, so you were cash flowing, give or take $200-300, a month. That's still a pretty solid deal. It's not the home run that everyone is looking for, but you made the money on the back end, once you sold it. Although you wasn't banking on appreciation, that's what happened. You could have carried that thing for the rest of the 5 years. You could have been making your $200-300 a month, still would have been a decent deal, but you use that to help leverage you and learn how to go forward. So now from that deal, I'm assuming that was the launch pad, Lee. What happened after that? What did you then get into?
Well, I'll tell you, that was the first deal. That first deal was the hardest, It was the hardest to find because you're so nervous. You've read a bunch of stuff, but you don't know what you're doing. And even though I still didn't really know what I was doing because I only had one deal under my belt, guess what? The second deal that I went into, I was going into it. When I first started, I was all about creative financing. And so I was looking for lease option opportunities. The second deal that I went to, I tried to promote my plan for a lease option on this seller's house. And
so, Lee, let me stop you real quick. Explain to us what lease option is, because I know some people, they have a misperception of what lease option is. Can you kind of clarify for us?
Yes. Well, it's a lease. You agree to lease the seller's house, so you're not a homeowner by any means. You are a renter, really, but you're leasing the house with the option to purchase. It's different than a lease purchase, to where you're telling the seller, hey, this is a delayed sales contract. I will buy your house. This is an option of purchase that you don't have to purchase, but I think it's for people who really are ethically going to do the right thing, because you're going to lease this house, and for it to make any sense, you want to put a time frame on it for 4 to 5 years, in my opinion. You lease a house with the option to purchase, and you need to have an exit strategy. You need to lease option it or rent to own it to somebody else. You need to rent it for a couple of years until you refinance. You need to do something. You need to have a pretty short-term exit strategy on that property. But you lease it. In my case, I would lease it. And so this was back in 2011. So now I think you'd be harder pressed to find sellers willing to do that.
Yep.
But you would lease it because they wanted to move on. It might be I would always try to find a seller that wasn't bad debt, to where they were, hey, I'm in foreclosure, I'm going to cause you drama, because the seller's still in the picture, right?
Right.
You're a tenant. So I would try to lease it from a seller who was moving because of good circumstances. They were upgrading, they were downsizing, they were moving town, but it's a bad market. You can't sell a mediocre house in a bad market.
Yep.
So I would come in and I would lease it for a certain price with the option to purchase in the future up to 5 years. And so that's what I did over and over and over again from about 2011 to 2014.
So Lee, how does that conversation go with the seller? Because I know there's a lot of gurus out here that say, hey, start, doing, if you don't have any money, do creative finance deals, So how was that conversation with your seller saying, hey, you know what? I know you're in this position. You bought another house. You still have this one. The market is not really strong, but I can come in and do X, Y, and Z. So just real briefly, how was that conversation? Because I know it could raise some red flags with sellers like, no, I just want to sell. What if this person don't honor their agreement, so on and so forth?
Well, exactly. And I've even worked with realtors. I would go to MLS to where it was, days on market. We're approaching 180 days. I say, hey, you're about to lose this listing. Let me come in and I'll pay you your commission. And as far as the seller to go, I would just clarify it in terms of, I'm your property manager on steroids. I said, you can come in your house, you can, whatever you need from me, I am here to provide it for you. So I'm going to give you this payment every single month, like clockwork. It's going to be on auto pay. And worst case scenario, Mr. Seller, you're going to get your house back in 5 years when it's hopefully a better market. I've already updated it because I'm going to come in and I'm not going to drop $20,000, right? But I'm going to go in, I'm going to paint, I'm going to freshen it up. I might put new appliances in, new vanities, and just, worst case scenario, you pay down your mortgage for years and years. You come in with a lower mortgage balance and hopefully a better market, and you can sell your house a lot easier if I fail to do what I say I'm going to do. Okay. And it's a lease. So let's say I fall off the face of the earth. You can take your house back. You essentially are a landlord. You can keep, the $500 to $1,500 non-refundable down payment that I've given you in case, I don't fulfill my obligations. And I'm on your team. I'm on your team because I'm not in this for a little measly $100 per month, what I'm going to, maybe rent it to somebody else for. I'm in this to sell it to another buyer within 5 years and capture a spread. So I was totally transparent with the seller each time. I would tell them exactly what I'm doing. I would say, I'm paying you $1,000 every month like clockwork. You are good to go live your life somewhere. This house is taken care of. Our sales price is $100,000. You know what I'm going to do within 5 years? I'm going to try to put the best family I can put in your house. They're going to pay me $1,200 a month, and my sales price to them is going to be $120,000. All the maintenance and stuff in between, I will handle. And so a lot of people chose to go with me after I would run the numbers for them to go with a property management company. You've got 10% maintenance, 10% property management. You're on the hook for a catastrophe repair, I would run the numbers with that and then run the numbers with me handling everything. They don't deal with vacancies. They don't deal with anything. They just
That's good. I mean, you position that very, 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 very well. Cause I'm like, wow, okay, I need to do this with one of my houses, but yeah, that's good. You definitely outline the benefits and the negatives, as far as if they went with a property manager. So you have built a business around this whole creative finance structure. So tell me what you guys are doing there, in Alabama, how you doing it. And, without giving the secret sauce, I know you guys are using creative financing, you're doing flips. So tell me, what are you doing, Lee?
Well, as we've grown the business, I did step away a little bit from the lease options and getting, I always like to have an ownership. After about year 4, I just decided it's going to be a smarter move for me to have an ownership role.
Well, you have some money now. You don't
Yeah,
have
not
to go
to,
creative
not to say I
financing.
wouldn't. Yeah, not to say I wouldn't do it. We still do owner financing. We do subject to transactions by taking over the seller's mortgage, just to save on loan costs and whatnot. But so we will get creative, but
Okay.
we no longer do the whole lease option strategy. You know, we'll usually present a cash offer or something, or if the mortgage is a little bit too high for that, we'll say, hey, let's take over your mortgage. That way we control everything, you know, in terms of, you know, even if we take over the mortgage, we are the homeowner, we can do what we want. So the lease options, we kind of got away from that. Just, you know, just to be more, I guess, getting to conservative and running a business. It's tough to be involved with all kinds of different moving parts. You know, when you're so creative, you've got a couple of different lease option structures, you've got a few different owner finance structures, and keeping it all, you know, in your head is sort of tough.
Right.
So we normally go, you know, cash purchases or private money or hard money lenders, taking over a seller's mortgage, and just keeping it pretty legit in terms of, not to say that, you know, we weren't legit before, but just to make sure that I think our operations are a little bit more safe instead of, you know, leasing a house, right? I mean, anything could happen if you're doing a lease option. What if something happens with the seller? I mean, anything could happen. And, you know, they pass away, and, you know, the kids, even though your contract says that it's still valid, like, it just, you know, there's so many things that can happen, you know, if you don't have that ownership role in the house.
Yeah.
Let's look at the tax benefits and all that.
So you guys started with the creative financing with the lease options and everything like that, and now you guys are doing more fix and flips, and you're doing rent to own, correct?
We do a little bit of rent to own. We mainly do turnkey property management.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing that we do. We buy a house and we'll fix it up. We've been flipping houses, you know, for the last 6 or 7 years. So we used to exclusively flip, because after the lease option days and running down a lot of tenants, and you guys probably know the rent to own tenants, a lot of times will not purchase, go figure.
Yep.
And so, you know, by the time you bang your head against the wall with trying to sell a house over and over and over and over again, you know, we just decided to start flipping houses when the market was really taking a swing up. We decided to flip houses for a few years exclusively with no landlord headaches, just kind of weaning out a few rent to own tenants. And then we decided to kind of meld both worlds, and once we had experience in construction, to flip rentals. You know, so we flip houses, but we also flip rentals. And so
So explain to me what flipping rentals are.
So the biggest thing is, you know, in this market, it's so competitive to find a flip. Everybody is clamoring over just a traditional flip. So nobody really wants a house maybe in a B or C class area that, you know, is still pretty solid, that needs work. Who wants to sink $20,000 or $30,000 remodel cost into a house that might only be worth $60,000 anyway?
Yep.
So we took on that little niche of buying some dilapidated houses, putting money into them, professionally managing the renter, you know, having a rent roll, having all new systems and roof and a stable asset that's cash flowing. And then we sell it to an investor who wants to diversify their portfolio, have some passive income. We make a little bit of a spread, not as much as you're going to make flipping like a 6-figure house.
Right.
But we'll make a little bit of money to justify, you know, our construction and our risk for taking on the property, and then we retain the management is the goal. So what I love about the turnkey model is that we will, once you flip the house, if you flip a normal house, that money's gone, right? You're probably over budget on 3 more projects or whatever. It's nice.
Yep.
You know, once it hits the bank, then it's gone. Well, in this model, you know, the goal is to retain the management and also to provide education for other buyers, you know, that might have other full-time jobs to where they can step into a house and know that it's been done, to where their maintenance over the next decade will be a lot lower than they just stepped into some regular house.
Okay.
So that's our bread and butter. That's our main focus right now is flipping rentals. We have about 6 to 7 under construction at any given time. And then my wife and I, we do more of the higher end flips because she designs the houses. And so I don't try to make a living or grow the business off of flipping houses. That's more just a complimentary service to what we're doing.
Okay. So you're basically providing turnkey assets to investors, that where they'll get a return, and you guys in turn is keeping the property management in-house with your company. Very smart, very great business strategy. So where are you guys going, one, to find the deals, and then two, to find the investors? So how are you finding your deals?
Well, finding the deals, the deals really are a dime a dozen. If you're advertising, you probably get 49 little 3-bedroom, 1-bath rental type houses to get that one flip.
Yep.
You got to filter through all those phone calls to get that one flip. So the supply is out there. We do our own in-house advertising. We have a sales team that'll make bonuses off of.
So are you for your marketing? Are you guys doing cold calling, direct mail, social media ads? How are you guys really doing your marketing without giving away your secret sauce there in Alabama?
We do a lot of all that you talked about. Mainly mailing out postcards.
Okay.
And we'll do some internet advertising. And we have done cold calling. Cold calling is a lot to manage, but it's very productive. You get a good return on your dollars for it. So those are basically our 3 ways. We'll put out signs here and there. The city is kind of cracking down on people putting out all those signs.
Yep. And it's not to cut you off, Lee, but that's real interesting, because if you go online, everyone is saying, direct mail is dead. Don't do direct mail. You won't get a good return, so on and so forth. And you just provided proof. I provide proof because I'm still doing direct mail. We're still finding deals, still getting deals. So absolutely right. Sometimes there are a lot of misnomers out there where people say, stop doing this, do this, but you have to remain consistent. So you guys are doing your in-house marketing, finding these deals, and you're looking for something totally different than what the average fix and flipper is looking for, correct?
Correct. And one of the good things about doing the turnkey model too is that the other wholesalers in town, we are their number 1 buyer for rental houses. They come to us first. They might have an agreed upon property to say, you know what, instead of us creating this color flyer and doing all this, we're just going to mark it up $3,000. We're going to send it to you. You got 48 hours to make a decision before we do our color flyers and start blasting our buyers. And so I've got a couple of those relationships around town because they know all of these rental houses, they're hard to wholesale. They're just hard to wholesale.
Yeah.
And the margins aren't that good. And so if they know that I'm a consistent buyer, we buy probably more from other wholesalers than we find in-house, just because, they're calling every day wanting to get rid of a house and maybe pop off a couple of grand on an assignment fee, which is fine, but it saves them from, I still get a good deal, and it saves them the time to have to go spend all this legwork and show the house and get a buyer and all that stuff. They know that they can show it once, and it's agreed upon price. We buy a lot from other wholesalers. And when we were exclusively flipping houses, I did not buy from wholesalers because they took all the profit. They took all the profit out. So you have to find your own deals, for the flips. But for the turnkey rentals, there's, the deals are out there to where there's so many of them that, we'll buy from other wholesalers, and it's still kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and coming from a wholesale perspective, because that's what my background was and still is. We still find deals by doing a lot of direct mail and cold calling. So as a wholesaler, having a buyer like you is really, really instrumental, because you can have that deal that's thin. Maybe you and the seller wants 55, and you can only sell this thing for 59. You're like, okay, well, I know a buyer that'll take it for 58, and let me just get the deal done, take the $3,000, walk and move on to the next deal. So I tell a lot of wholesalers, find your buy and hold guys that's in your market. A lot of the fix and flippers, for one, it's harder to find those fix and flip deals. And then two, again, they're looking for these sizable margins. But when you had a buy and hold guys like yourself, you can get those properties under contract within margins and still move them. So, that's really excellently. So now you're getting these deals, you're finding these deals, through wholesalers, MLS, and things like that. Where are you finding your end investors, man? Because I know that could probably be a little challenging.
Well, and that's one thing that I'm really working on as the owner of the company is building up my buyers. That is one thing that to grow the business that we have to continue to do. Because we don't have big hedge funds or anything that's going to come buy these. We're selling to people who want to buy 1, 2, 3 rental houses to supplement their retirement. So you're always looking for other, for buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So, it really, networking is the biggest thing. I mean, it is the biggest thing, just the word of mouth. Joining networking groups. I met you at the Bigger Pockets conference. Just talking to people and letting them know, the returns that we have. And you think about it on a large scale in the U.S. Mobile, Alabama is one of those little niches where you can still find the good returns. You have places like Indianapolis and Birmingham, Alabama, that are kind of known on a national scale.
Mm-hmm.
We can provide those same type of assets. We normally fully remodeled house, $60,000 or $65,000 max for an $850 rent check. And if you were buying it and doing all the work yourself, you might want a little bit better of a return. But that's an excellent return if you don't have to do anything and you get a new dimensional roof, new system, central heat and air, waterproof flooring, and a renter already in place with no placement fee. It's so finding the buyers. It's always challenging. I'm always kind of trying to think outside the box, and I talk to local realtors in town too. We of course pay a commission if they bring the buyer. So we found a number of buyers through just networking with other realtors. We haven't gone so far as to putting our deals on MLS yet, because I really try to respect the renters as well. Right. I don't want to put a sign in the yard and a lockbox in them. So it's still sort of a word of mouth type of operation. To find our buyers. So.
Sweet. And I know Mobile. I mean, you guys have vacation rentals there. It's a destination place. So I know the market is pretty strong. So you're doing great there. So tell me, Lee, I know you've done quite a few deals. I've been on your site. I've seen a lot of the flips and things like that you guys have done. Excellent work, man. Tell me, what was your most creative deal?
One of the most creative deals was going back to owner finance deal. It was probably one to where a guy had called from a Craigslist ad. I'll buy houses cash on Craigslist, right? He had called and he had owner financed this rental house to another person that he had to foreclose on. He took the note back. He called me and he said, "Lee, all I want is my note." And he owed like $36,000 on the house. So I said, "You know what? How about I pay you $300 a month for 10 years and the house is totally paid for?" And he was like, "Okay, let's do it." And so that's zero interest. Zero.
Wow.
$300 a month. I said, defer payments up to my first $300 payment to you is deferred for up to 3 months or until I find a renter. And so I found a renter before then and I started paying him, but rented it for $850 a month, paid him $300 a month, principal only payments.
Wow. Wow.
Because all he wanted is money. He just wanted his money back. He didn't care about interest, and he just wanted his money back. And so that's how we structured it. That's the only owner finance deal I've ever done and not had to pay interest.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. 0% interest. So you was borrowing money without it costing you anything, basically. Yeah. So that's good. So now, Lee, I know you came through, 2011, you went through a little bit of the downturn and now the whole upswing. Have you guys ever came into, an area where you're like, man, you guys hit a rough patch and you almost wanted to quit or give up?
Yes, for sure. This was when we did not have the passive income coming in. We had sold all of our rental houses and we had started flipping exclusively because I was, quite honest, kind of jaded at the renters because I was a mom and pop landlord. I didn't system. I was trying to go drive around and collect rent checks. So we started flipping these houses. We had some mediocre success. This was about 4 years ago. And we came across this house built in 1852 that was just completely shot, but it was in a good part of town, historic district. Anyway, we hired the wrong contractor and ended up, he kind of more of a con artist than a contractor, right?
Okay.
And he drew out a bunch of money from us and covered up a lot of mistakes. So we basically remodeled this old 1800s house twice. Way over budget, completely broke. And plus we had a couple other flips on the market that we were paying interest payments on that it was around the holidays. So normally we'll flip a house and we get a contract on it in 2 weeks. Well, these other 2 houses we had finished, they didn't have any action.
They were sitting.
So they were sitting. We were just paying holding costs. And then we had this really large historic house that we were doing. And it's one of those, you just throw your hands up in the air and you just have to get yourself out of bed in the morning, go over there. I was pretty in a bad place because I was like, I've got a college degree, I have an MBA, and I'm sitting in here, I'm laying sod, I'm cleaning up the job site, I'm running, truckloads of stuff to the dump, but you just have to do it. I had a hard money loan on the house, and so it's like, I am not defaulting on this house. we are doing this, whether we're either doing it, I got my wife involved, she helped paint, and so we really just kind of grinded it out and got it on the market. And it sold like as we were hanging the light fixtures.
Wow. Okay.
We got an offer on it. And so but we could have just, if we didn't want to roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty, we could have just said, you know what, hard money guy, have this house back. But that's probably when I really was just like, I don't know if we should do this or not.
Yeah, and I tell people, man, sometimes you have those deals that put you in that mindset. Like you're saying, you're like, I got an MBA. What am I doing out here rolling sod and taking stuff to the dumpster? I could be doing something, something else, but you guys came through and you made it happen. So that, just curious, that contractor, I know you guys had done other flips. You said you had 2 other flips on the market. How come you didn't use one of your contractors you used before? We
did. We pulled together, these other guys to help. They didn't quite have the experience, because again, this was 4 years ago. We run about 6 to 8 crews now, but this was before we really had deep relationships that people can come help. Now I'll fire a contractor in a second, because I know that I'm not stuck. I think what happened in this job was we were so scared to let him go because he had pulled out more money than the work he had done.
Oh, gotcha.
And we just kept throwing good money after bad.
Yeah.
So just full of empty promises. And so we let him talk us into, now, I mean, it's a big learning lesson because now we would never allow them. If they haven't done the work to justify the payment, we're just not going to pay.
We're not going to pay, right.
So if they're not upholding their end of the contract. Well, I think we didn't have the money to start all over, which we ultimately ended up having to do. So we just let him draw us out for even more money because we thought, hey, this is going to be super expensive to bring contractor B in here to do all this stuff.
Yep.
And so we tried to let him work as long as he could. And then it just became one change order after another. And then finally we were just like, hey, okay, we got to stop all this.
Yep.
And so it was one of those things to where I kind of heard some grumblings like he wasn't paying his guys. And so what we did was I called this contractor's crew all together and I said, we're letting him go. We just let him go in the front yard. I understand he hasn't paid you guys, but if you guys want to finish his house and make money every single Friday, let's talk about it personally and you can stay. And so we ended up finishing that house with some of his guys.
Okay. Smart move.
It's kind of how it happened because they weren't going to follow him to the next project anyway because they weren't getting paid.
Exactly.
So we just kept his guys to help finish it out because he was an older gentleman. He wasn't really doing any work himself. And so there really wasn't any need for him to be there.
So he was just really kind of acting as a GC.
Exactly.
And not paying the guys, not paying
running
the
supplies
trades.
and taking the money.
Right. Okay, so I know you guys, like I said, been doing a whole lot of stuff, man. How do you think your investing impacted the community, in Mobile?
Well, I always try to go the extra mile to provide a good product, whether it makes complete financial sense or not, right? I mean, I don't put lipstick on a pig. So we, the quantity of houses that we do now, it's no major company here, but we remodel about 6 rentals per month, in addition to, a flip every couple months or so. And sometimes we'll renovate more than 6 per month. But usually these are on streets with hit or miss houses.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it's just completely just an area to where you wouldn't want to invest in, but an area to where families will live there, decent schools. And I think that making all these houses really nice, a lot of them to where the city has already put notices on the door to say, hey, we're going to tear this down in 6 months. And for us to come in and completely make it habitable again and increase the home values one house at a time, it's a great feeling just to say, to have a family move into something that's completely redone. And there's nothing even comparable, on the streets around it. Yeah, exactly. So, I like just improving our community one house at a time. That's why my company's called W.L.E.R.E. The big Mobile government program is called Restore Mobile. So it's Revitalize Realty, and our construction arm is Revitalize Mobile. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. Our office is situated right on the nice historic district going into, the lower income area. And so we're buying houses up all around our office too. And just trying to clean up these houses.
Have you started working with the city at all for some of those houses that they're looking to condemn, and they pretty much giving them to you since you're working with the community to get them back up and going?
Definitely on my radar, but we have not yet.
Okay.
Talked to a couple of people about possibly setting up a relationship like that, but not yet. So we've been so busy just with the deals coming in the door. We really haven't taking the opportunity to capitalize on that. But it is coming, don't worry.
Gotcha. And the reason why I bring that up is because I invest in a smaller city right outside of Chicago, about an hour south of Chicago. And we work with the city, and really starting to do more work with the city because they have quite a few houses that are abandoned. And yeah, they may need a full gut rehab, but it restores the community and restores the area. And once people, have that pride of ownership, even if they are renting, people still have that pride of ownership that I'm in a new house, I'm going to make sure I keep this up. And the city will then turn around, contact you and say, hey, we got this house that's on the condemned list, come in, take a look at it. If it's something that you want, we'll write it off and you guys can have the property. And then not only that, they'll make it easy for you to get the permits, and everything like that. So, so that's definitely something to look into rather sooner than later. That way you can build that relationship with the city of Mobile.
Well, exactly. And I've thought about that. And when you remodel these houses too, the vacancy goes way down.
Yep.
You remodel a house and they've got the nicest house in the street. Why would you want to move?
Exactly. Yep.
So really decreases the vacancy. So no, that's definitely on my list to do is to work with the city, because they are remodeling houses or hiring private contractors to remodel with government grants to remodel houses all alongside my houses.
Yep. So I mean, it's two opportunities. I mean, you can get the houses, or you can be that main construction crew, since you have that construction company, to then do those houses for the city. I mean, you're a smart guy. You have an MBA. You know how to figure it out. So, yeah. So Lee, we gotta roll into our hot seat questions, man. This is our hot seat questions. So I want you to try and answer these questions as quick as possible. So starting over, what would you do differently?
I would get a mentor. I would definitely get a mentor. Maybe not one of these high-paid people on TV or something, but somebody locally that you respect. Maybe somebody in your local real estate group. But I was too arrogant to do it when I started. I thought I knew everything, and I didn't. And even though I went to college, real estate is totally different. And I went to the school of hard knocks and lost on a number of houses. And was just too blinded to know that I was, making some wrong deals. So I think to have somebody with a little wisdom to kind of show you the way or give you some advice is what I would do if I had to start all over. It probably would have fast-tracked me instead of kind of being stagnant for a little bit.
Yep. So number one, you will find a mentor. What is the greatest commodity outside of capital for you and your company?
I mean, it has to be just work ethic, just grinding, knowing if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. If we tell someone we're going to buy their house, we're going to buy it, even if we don't wholesale. We're going to buy it unless there's a major foundation issue. So I think my word and just the work ethic, my dad was always, work long hours, and, I've tried to scale back on the hours that I work. I mean, what's the point in real estate, but just the work ethic, I think, is the biggest thing, because I'm not overly smart like engineer, hey, I've really got this under control. I feel like I'm, pretty decent in a number of areas. So just to outwork people when I need to is what's kind of kept me ahead.
Okay. And what's one thing you think you could do to be more productive?
Definitely be more routine. Systemize. I get pulled in a lot of different directions, and so having more structure, I think, is something that's a constant battle for me, because somebody has a hot deal, and instead of coming to the office at 8 a.m., you're out, and then all of a sudden you get another call and you don't make it to the office at 12 o'clock. So I think being more systemized is my big deal that I could do better.
All right. What drives your ambition?
I think like most people trying to get into real estate is financial freedom. My family, every time I look at my wife and our little 4-year-old, really drives my ambition to create a company that I can take a 4-week vacation. I mean, I've never in my life been able to do something like that. To be able to have something produce income for me and my family without actually trading your work for money.
Gotcha. Okay, and then what do you think is your greatest challenge, internal or external? What is something that you really need to work on?
I think staying in my lane as far as every time I have some success, after 8 to 12 months, I do something new and I'm like, oh, I'm an expert wholesaler now, instead of continuing to do what was going for you right, switching lanes and be like, I'm going to buy more rental houses, so just making sure that I stay in my lane. And now that I know that my number one priority is to build this turnkey property management company, really doing that and doing it well until it gets boring. I mean, I want to do it so well until it gets boring because, you have a couple of wins here and there. And guess what? Friends and colleagues and people at networking groups want to pull you in different directions. Hey, buy this over here, do this. And just saying no to some of that stuff, is the biggest thing.
Gotcha. I mean, it's that focus, especially with entrepreneurs, man. We're always, we have the eye on a prize, but we're always kind of flirting and looking at something else like, hey, you know what, I may be able to try this. So
let me buy an RV park now, it's stuff that you should not do.
that shiny object syndrome, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, what's the latest business book you've read?
I think the latest one was I revisited The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Okay.
Just the main concept that I took out of that book is just the time block, because being an entrepreneur, just saying, you know what, nobody bother me. I'm going to shut the blinds in my office, lock the door, turn my phone upside down. I'm going to close out of my email browser, and I'm just going to time block 2 hours to focus on the one thing that grows your business, right?
Yep.
If I'm searching for new buyers and, that I need to sell these flips to make money for the company, I can't be putting out fires in operations, doing a million other things, talking to contractors or sending a delinquent renter to collections. I've got to
focus on that one thing. Yep.
One thing, exactly. So that's the biggest thing.
All right. And then what about the latest real estate book that you've read?
The book on estimating rehab costs by, who wrote that? Jay Scott.
Jay Scott. Yeah.
I kind of got into a zone the past couple of years to where I would just look at a house and say, oh yeah, I know this type of house, it's going to cost $20. And I would walk in 5 minutes later, and then you're getting a loan for $50,000 over 5 minutes of due diligence. And so I kind of sat back and touched on that again, just say, you know what, and let's really focus down on making sure our numbers are correct, because, I got into a mindset of I'm slamming out so many houses that who cares if there's a swing in $5,000 plus or minus? Well, you need to make sure that crawl space doesn't have termites before you buy it.
Yeah.
So I think kind of going in and just reading that from start to finish again was a big thing for me. And especially I've got somebody that just came on board that I'm training to be able to teach that person these numbers, and taking the time to go through a spreadsheet and calculate doorknobs and your roof and the whole 9 yards, stuff that when I was doing it myself I never cared to do.
Yeah,
just because I was like, you know what, I've done a million of these, I'm just gonna it's gonna be $20,000, who cares?
Guesstimate.
But that's a lot of money. I mean, that matters. You can't just you can't operate like that. So
So Lee, so tell me, man, you're doing a lot of things there in Mobile. How can we get in touch with you? How can we find you? How can we follow you? Especially for those who are looking to get into turnkey property management, flipping, creative finance. You have a little bit of expertise in a lot of areas. So how can we reach you?
Well, the biggest thing is probably to email me. My company website is revitalizemobile.com.
Okay.
So Lee, at revitalizemobile.com. Of course, I'm on Facebook, Lee Waldrop, Mobile, Alabama. You search that, I'll come up. Bigger Pockets, I'm on Bigger Pockets. LinkedIn. Just send me a message or whatever, and I'll get back to you.
And guys, I'll have all of Lee's contact information in the show notes. Lee, I want to appreciate you, man. I think you gave a lot of great nuggets today, man, from just starting out with lease options all the way to doing, 5-6 deals, a week and a month, doing some property management. So I really want to appreciate you coming on and speaking to the listeners today. So before we sign off, man, any last words you want to give the listeners?
Well, I just appreciate you, Marcus, for having me on. I would say, to anybody who's just starting out, you just got to get out there and do it. Don't make a dumb move, but don't analyze it forever and ever and ever. You got to get out there and do it. You might lose a little money, worst case scenario, but you're still going to be living on this earth, right? Go out and buy a house. It's and get into the game, and I was a big proponent of learn as you go. Learn as much as you can over the book, reading books, and then just go for it. So I say, if you're scared to take that first step, just do it, because believe you me, I'm talking about took years and years to get the nerve to buy my first house, and then once I did, I bought another one within 2 months, and then another one within a month, and then it just snowballed. So,
and that's the thing, is just taking action. You guys have to take action. Once you take action, you will see a lot of those fears that you have, those pre-imposed fears, they'll go away. So don't analyze so much. Listen to what Lee is saying. Don't overanalyze the deal. The numbers are simple. The numbers either work or they don't. If they do, pull the trigger, get it done. If they don't, go on to the next deal. So Lee, I want to appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Guys, all of that information to be in the show notes. Revitalizemobile.com is where you can find Lee, and I'll have his Facebook, VP profile, and everything like that in the show notes. So again, Lee, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcus. See you guys. Right. Okay.
Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCSMaloney, Twitter at MRCSMaloney, and of course, IG at MRCSMaloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.